foremost, it's always good to see a lot of student athletes here in attendance. We thank you for being here. We also want to recognize the gift of the current Hall of Fame room, which was a gift of Sandy and Bill Axline in memory of William T. Axline and the late Channing and Jane Pratt, dedicated in June 2004. And we are pleased to have with us today Bill Axline. Bill, would you please stand up? We are also very fortunate here at Monmouth College to have a college president that understands how vital the athletic programs are to the growth of the institution. And although, as he admitted last night, he may not have a booming voice, he does have booming thoughts, and he's here to share those with us. President Fitzler.
Thank you, John. Good to see Axline represented. It would be great if we could have the Pratts and Terry Glasgow. Is Terry here? I don't see Terry. You know, I'd like to see Terry here so we can imagine how this event has grown since he helped get it started. I saw Terry last night. He was at the receiving the Glasgow Family of the Year Award at the gala. He was in absolutely rare form. He said he was going to speak for 2 minutes, and he went for about 20. And lots of energy. But you know, maybe some of us reach the stage in our life where we're in rare form. It takes us a day or two to recover and be back on campus. But good to see so many of you. And I don't know that I've seen as much energy at 8:30 on a Saturday morning on this campus all semester. I might not have seen as much energy even on a weekday at 8:30 in the morning. Good to see you here. And as we think about those people that have built this into a very nice event, a very nice organization, also imagine those who have picked up the baton. John, we're so glad that you're working on this, and Roger Haynes, appreciate your good work. Most of all, though, if we think about the group that started it and the group that's picked it up and kept it going, we want to acknowledge Kathy, who helped it get it started and helps keep going. Kathy Haas, thanks for your good work. Good to have that continuity, that tie from the beginning to where we are today. Last year, as I was waiting for this event to start, I walked into the Hall of Fame and started looking at the names on the plaques. And I got thinking about how much overlap there was between the names on those plaques and the names on the plaques of the Hall of Achievement. It's outside my office, the Hall of Achievement for overall accomplishments for graduates. And there are a lot of people who are in both groups. There's a lot of overlap between those two groups. And that's not surprising, because those who accomplished the most for the college probably should be the ones who got the best education. And it's not surprising to me that a number of athletes from the Hall of Fame apparently got the best education and had the most achievements, because athletics is such an important part of our educational enterprise here. I was looking at our 4 recipients today, and none of their names are yet on the Hall of Achievement over outside my office, but I also looked, and they're very young yet. So I expect that one of these days, 1, 2, 3, or all 4 of those are going to be on the Hall of Achievement as well. Thanks for coming, and I look forward to these wonderful speeches.
And I promised the President I would not this year bring up any kind of questions about when the Teeks and David Kaiser are going to get back on campus, so I'll make sure that I don't do that. Our first induction today for Casey Boyston, long time, another person vital to the athletic department here at Monmouth College. He's taken care of the athletic fields, the maintenance department. He's been a long-time assistant coach, a long-time head coach, is our own Coach Roger Sanders.
I do have a booming voice, so bear with me. You know, when you're doing this stuff, it's always tough putting together a speech because you want to say the right words. But by far the toughest thing of this whole process was going through my closet trying to find a pair of long pants. I don't own very many of them. It took me a while, Casey, I'm here to tell you, to go through all my t-shirts, shorts, but I did find a pair, and I'm here. Myra, I brought something for you. Just in case you want to make a little noise in the ceremony. I don't think Casey's mother ever said a word at the ball game, but you knew she was at every ball game because she had this can full of rocks or whatever. I don't know what was in it, but she just shook it all the time, and she was always there. So that's my gift to you, dear. Recruiting Casey was really actually very easy for me. I didn't. Casey was going to Division I. He was a great baseball player. I never even recruited him. And then all of a sudden, Casey wasn't very happy where he was at. Next thing I know, he's standing at my door wanting to come to Monmouth College. So we sat down and talked, and really Casey was burned out on baseball and really didn't want to play. And we talked for a while, and I said to him, Casey, you've done it your entire life. Why don't you just try it for a year? If you don't, we'll back off. And well, the rest is history. He's here, and I'm glad he did. Casey was part of a great recruiting class. I brought in 6 kids that year. 2 Division I transfer pitchers, Division I transfer shortstop, an all-state shortstop from Springfield, junior college pitcher, and an all-state outfielder. It's by far my best class I've ever had. The problem was they didn't like to go to class. And so when the dust cleared, Casey was in a class by himself. I mean, he was the only one there. And it's only fitting that he was in a class by himself because on a baseball field, Casey was in a class by himself. His accomplishments are unbelievable. But the best thing about Casey playing is how he practiced is how he played. He never took a day off. You know, they talk about giving 100, 110%. Casey did that every day in practice. And that's how he played. He only had one speed. He just played hard all the time. Casey was the kind of kid that enjoyed practice. That's what made him so good. You know, his accomplishments are unbelievable. But Casey also struggled in the classroom a little bit, okay? He was less than highly motivated. That's why Casey and me got along, because believe it or not, I was less than highly motivated in the classroom myself. I kind of struggled with that student, I had to be part of myself. But then, you know, you give credit to a lot of people, and Casey needs some of the credit. And his parents do, and maybe I did a little, but I really credit his wife, Katie, okay? When she stepped into his life, all of a sudden, Casey decided things became a little more important to him. And he started to take things a little more seriously, and he finally got his degree, and the rest is history. Some of Casey's accomplishments. Upon his graduation, he was first in advancing the season, which is still a record, second in hits in the game 5, second in doubles in the season, second in triples in the season, first in total bases in the season. He has the top 3 finishes in stolen bases in the season, which still holds today. He was first in assists, which still holds today. And he's hit his career accomplishments, still a career record. He has the most advanced by anybody. He's second in runs scored. He has the most hits as anybody. He's 4th in doubles, second in triples. He has a career best in total bases, career best stolen bases, career best assists. One career mark Casey wouldn't be very proud of is he is a career record holder in errors. Yeah, but part of the reason why was Casey tried to make every play. Casey was a great fielder, but Casey tried to do everything, and sometimes he just went a little too overboard. But it wasn't because he couldn't field; he just thought he could do everything. We changed all our defenses. We changed all of our responsibility of pop flies with Casey infield, just as I did when I had Brett Dugan when he was pitching. We changed them because they were that good. My philosophy has always been put the ball in the best player's hand, and by far Casey was the best player. But so that one record he has, we're not proud of, but that's the circumstances. It is indeed my honor to present to you, congratulations, Casey Winston.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate the kind words. It really means a lot to me that we were here to do this. You actually are more dressed up than I am today. It's not the first time ever. I appreciate that. Thank you all for coming.
means a lot to me to see some friendly faces in the crowd. I've wanted this for a long time. I'm not going back away from that. From the first day that I walked through the doors, well, not these doors, because the building wasn't here. But, this has been one of my goals. And when I finally got the call from Coach Haynes, I was worried about it. I was wondering what I was going to say and how I was going to stand up and accept, what I perceive to be a huge honor. I haven't really been about me. I did a team sport. It might sound cliche, but it wasn't about me. It was about us. And then the more I started to think about it, and all the people that I really wanted to thank, this isn't an individual award at all. I think there are a lot of names that belong on this practicing. So I just kind of want to thank some people in lieu of giving creative speech. I want to start off and kind of echo Coach's words and thank my wife, Katie. Pretty much every positive step that I've taken in my life in the last 10 years is a direct reflection of the person that she is and the person that she makes me want to be. I wouldn't be here in front of you if it weren't for her. She's really the one that gave me the support and the encouragement that I needed to come back and get my degree. And that just means the world to me. She's also the reason that I don't feel like my glory days are behind me. So thank you. She wrote that part. I wanted to do that first, so I couldn't forget. Thank you. I want to thank all the people that came before me. When we'd be at the old gym, which is now the really old gym, 5:30 in the morning on frigid February days, I'd read all the plaques out on the wall before we go into the gym and start practice, and it always gave me that extra motivation to take some extra swings and take some extra ground balls and really to be the best that I can be. And I hope someday when someone will continue to read my plaque, will give them that encouragement to just be the best that they can be and to give everything that they've got. I think all my former teammates just gave me the support that they always did, especially all the Galesburg guys. Some of them are here today. The Lincoln Way guys, Chicago area guys that I lived with my junior year really helped me to kind of develop into the player that I was. One of my favorite teammates, Sean P. I just want to make a special mention of him. He was the epitome of leading by example, and he taught me the way that I should handle myself when I was out on the field. There's a special group too that I want to thank, and I'm not going to mention any names, but Coach said, one of the things for me, and if I could choose what my legacy was, is that I practiced as hard as I played, and I took practice seriously. I was fortunate enough, I worked really hard at what I did, but I was fortunate enough to be blessed with some natural talent. I don't think there's any way to deny that. But I was also lucky enough to play with some guys that maybe weren't blessed with that type of talent, and practice was what they had. And they came in every day, and they worked as hard as they could, and their hope was maybe to get at bat somewhere, maybe get an inning pitch, and maybe a blowout game. And that really inspired me, because if they could work that hard to come to practice, and to show up every day and do everything they could to make themselves better, I owed it to them to treat practice the same way. So throughout my life, those are really the teammates that inspired me to work as hard as I can, and to leave that legacy of practicing as hard as I played. I want to thank all the coaches that I've ever had in my life. I learned something different from each one of them. One in particular, I think the first one that really made an impact on me is actually a Hall of Famer here as well. You guys know him as a football player, Mark Reed. I knew him as my assistant freshman basketball coach, but he worked with a bunch of 14-year-old kids, and he's the first coach that really made me want to run through a wall for him. And I respected that. He called us men, and he treated us like men, and I learned a lot from that experience. Arnold Gonzalez, also a Monmouth alum. He was my freshman baseball coach in high school, and then he was an assistant coach my last 3 years, and I think that's where he really made the impact, because he was a confidant, he was somebody that I could trust, somebody that I could talk to. He was also instrumental in getting to here. He found out that I left Southern Illinois. He called me and told me this is where I belong. I don't think he had any idea how great he was. My high school coaches, my leading coach, Mike Sturgeon, one of the best coaches I've ever had. Coach Dugan played that confidant role for me here at Monmouth. Learned a lot from him on and off the field. I appreciate everything that he did for me. Coach Weinbrad as well. thinking of the stories that I want to tell, about him, and I can't tell them they're too colorful for this crowd, or they would make it never want to speak to me again. But the one thing I did come up with, and it happened after my playing days. Coach helped me make that transition. All I ever loved was baseball players. That was kind of my whole life. That was my identity. And Coach helped me make that transition to being something else. And one of the most important conversations I've ever had was in his office. It was when I had come back to school and I was still struggling with class. He told me, he said, there's a lot of people that are in your corner, and I'll always be there for you. But there are a lot of people that are counting on you now too. And I think that was really a turning point for me, and I kind of got my act together. And the rest has been fun. So thank you for that, Coach. I owe you a lot. I want to thank my grandpa, who passed away several years ago. He was a Knox graduate, and he showed up at every single one of my baseball games when I was with that. I was pretty impressed with that. I always said I wasn't sure that I could do that, but it meant a lot to him to be there and to watch, and I know he was proud of me, and I just appreciated him being at all of my games. Everyone here in the athletic department, you guys have all been fantastic. Every single one of you has touched my life in a way that I can't really describe. I want to thank you all for that. And then last but certainly not least, I want to thank my parents. I tried to use math, but I want to put it at roughly 700 to 800 games that I played in my career through baseball and basketball. I started playing organized baseball when I was 6. And the first game that I didn't look up in the crowd to see both of my parents there was my third game in college. It's just remarkable to me to think that they made it a point to be at every single one of my games, every single season, every single year. They were always there, and I knew that I could count on them to be there, to be supportive, and to be cheering me on. Always made no bones about it. They were proud of me, but I'm proud of them and the way that they raised me, and I hope that someday I can have the opportunity to do that for So really, I just, again, thank you everyone for being here. I was talking to my wife on the way over. We went to the President's Gala last night, and she was talking about how just amazing the feeling is here, and how it's just a big family. And that couldn't be further, that couldn't be more true. This place, I haven't been back in a while, and I know I don't do as well keeping in touch with a lot of people as I should. But this place will always be home to me, and it's really good to be back. Thank you.
Okay, we're off to a good start. Let's keep it going here. And then our next presenter to introduce Jen Whitmer is another one of those guys that's been here helping out behind the scenes and on the airwaves for here at the college, 40, 50 years? Somewhere in that neighborhood. It's our sports information director, Dan Dolan.
I was hoping Coach Sander brought that coffee can for me to stand on. Let me first say that like John said, I worked at the radio station for about 13 years. I've been here for 14 years. And in that capacity, I had a chance to see pretty much all these inductees firsthand. And I was thinking about today, and I thought, for these 4 people, I came up with a short description for each one. Fierce competitor, intense determination, gifted athlete, and high maintenance. I'll let you pick out which athlete goes with that description, or each description. But I'm sure there's going to be an emotional time for the inductees. But today's induction of Jen really is an emotional time for me because Jen is just like a daughter to me. She never calls, never writes, no cards on my birthday. But one person who can't be here today, I was very, very proud of Jen. That was Mike Olson, Coach Ollie. If you don't know, passed away this summer. And I saw him a couple of weeks before he passed. And I told him that Jen was going to be inducted in the Hall of Fame. I know he felt terrible, but he really beamed when I gave him that news. He was so proud of me. So when Jen asked me to be the presenter, I felt very humbled because I felt like Coach Ollie should be the presenter because he coached the year that she really had a breakout season. I hope that I can do her justice, and I'd like to share all of her exploits with you. But because of time constraints and good taste, I can't do all of that, but you can see a good portion of her athletic exploits in the program. Now, her offensive numbers really defy logic. 361 career batting average, with 17 home runs, school record, and a .597 slugging percentage. So she hit for power and average. That's hard to do. And she's not your prototypical power hitter. She's small in stature by power hitter standards. No one would ever confuse her with Babe Ruth or Barry Bonds or Albert, what's his name? Yeah, I'm still bitter, okay? She wasn't that big or tall or intimidating until she took that first swing. And they call monstrous home runs Ruthian clouds. I like to say they wit murdered it. She never got cheated on a swing. Nearly every swing was maximum effort. And her teammate Jody Shale once described Jen as having a slow pitch type of swing. And I think maybe to some degree that's true, because in her junior year when she had that breakout year, 8 home runs, tied the school record, the ball must have looked as big as a basketball and coming in at slow pitch speed. And she didn't even take a full swing all the time to hit a home run. And the best example of that was right out here, and Jen may not remember it because she had so many, but she squared the bunt, pulled it back, and still while choked halfway up on the bat, hit it over the fence in dead center. That was pretty impressive. And she had 2 home runs that didn't even count. One was over at Grinnell, a game that was rained out. And didn't get to the 5th inning, so it wasn't a complete game, none of the stats counted. The other one was the game that she hit for the cycle, the only softball player to hit for the cycle. We were playing a crossover tournament the first year at Janesville, Wisconsin, and they had snow fences. And a gale force winds, and the snow fence was laying flat. So the umpires decided if the ball hits the fence and goes over, it's a double, period. End of story. Well, Jen hit a high towering blast. The snow fence is laying flat, and it hits like on the top 6 inches of the snow fence. Had the snow fence been up the way it was supposed to be, it would have cleared it by about 3 feet. That was the downside, didn't get the home run. The upside is she hit for the cycle. So, good news, bad news. During her breakout junior season, she hit a home run about every 15 at-bats. That's about every 3-4 games. And her average actually went up to an amazing 424. And that's about a hit every other at-bat. If there was ever a player who carried the team on her back, it had to be Jen that season. Her home runs were so common that the team really expected her to hit a home run. Need a home run? Jen will do it. And she usually did. She also handled the pressure of that home run chase quite well, especially the conference tournament her senior year. Her career was winding down. She had, at maximum, 2 games, about maybe 6 at-bats. Or as few as 2 games or 6 at-bats to get the job done. But as she had done throughout her career, there was work to do, and she did it. 2-run homer in her first at-bat, tied the record, and that eventually became the winning margin in a 4-3 game. Now, her power numbers did tail off a bit in her senior year. Now, why did that happen? And Coach Goddard, we have the softball team back here. Coach Goddard makes sure the ladies are awake because this is for them. Her production dropped, and she'll admit this because she started thinking about it. And I'm going to borrow a line from Coach Sander. You're not very good when you think, so just don't think, okay? How many times, Casey, did you hear that? Yeah. So what really made Jen earn Hall of Fame status? Was it her power numbers? Maybe her batting average, her RBI total? Well, I think the Hall of Fame got it wrong if they count those statistics because it's not any of those stats that makes Jen a Hall of Famer as far as I'm concerned. And stats are a big part of what I do. But it's something else. When you realize that Jen had 4 coaches during her 4 years here, that really ups the ante to even have a desire to play softball at all. But it's not really that surprising when you understand what's inside of what's in here. It's that intangible thing that you can't taste, touch, smell, or hear, but you can see it. You can see it in the way she practiced and played, and you can see it the way she quietly led the team. That's what sets her apart. Her 4 years as a Scot was a pivotal time for both Jen and for the softball program. The team rewrote the record book during those 4 years. She was a big part of that. And it began a string of 6 straight conference tournament appearances, and that record still stands today. She emerged as a leader, and during her home run surge, it could have been all about me, all about Jen Whitmer, but instead, she knew that for the team to be successful, that everyone had to be successful. So Jen gave up reps in the batting cage to a very impressionable freshman class. She nurtured them that junior year. And they must have listened because more than half of them stuck around all 4 years to play softball, and that's a pretty good retention rate. Now, she wasn't the rah-rah type of leader, simply a leader who did her job. She did what the coaches asked, and she did what was the best for the team. Now, the Hall of Fame committee may have elected Jen Whitmer for the Hall because of her bat, but for me, she's a Hall of Famer for all those other things she did for the team, things that don't show up in a box score. And yes, that Whitmer home run that hasn't landed quite yet. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm extremely proud to introduce my very dear friend and Hall of Famer, Jen Whitmer.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really excited to be back at Monmouth College. Like Casey said, this is a place that will always feel like home to me. I'd like to thank Dan for his wonderful introduction. When I was asked to pick a presenter for today's ceremony, it was a no-brainer. Dan and I have been friends for many years now, and we've managed to stay in touch despite the distance. He's always been there to make me feel like a superstar with his entries in the Scott Scoop. Meanwhile, he's also been there to consistently remind me of how close these current softballers are getting to my records. There's no doubt in my mind that Dan is exactly where he needs to be. He's a wonderful asset to Monmouth College and the athletic program. When I think about my athletic career and my achievements, I am quickly reminded of the great coaching and guidance I've received growing up. Throughout my life, I've been fortunate to work with coaches who were knowledgeable about sports, coaches who made sports fun and interesting, and coaches who demanded hard work and dedication. Without them, I would not be the athlete that I am, and I'm very thankful for these people. There's one coach that I wish could be with me here today, and I don't think it's any coincidence that I had my breakout season under his direction. He was a big fan of mine, and I know he was rooting for me to receive this honor. I remember him emailing me last year about this time and saying, "Not this year, maybe next year, kid." When I found out that I was being inducted this year, I wrote him the message, "Coach Oley, just wanted you to know that we did it this year. I made it to the Hall of Fame. Thank you for everything you've done for me. I love you, buddy." I certainly hope he got the message. Coach Oley was a great man, and I'm thankful I had the opportunity to work with him. I'm pretty hopeful that he's smiling down on this ceremony today. Finally, I'd like to thank my family. Throughout my athletic career, they have given me an endless supply of love and support. They have made many sacrifices for me, and none of that has gone unnoticed. My dad always worked hard to provide for our family, and he always made my needs. He was the one I looked to in the stands. When things weren't going my way, he'd offer advice, and when things were going my way, he'd give me the thumbs up. I'm thankful that whenever I needed him, he was there. I may not have gotten my athletic ability from my mother, but she was my biggest fan. She picked me up when I was down more times than I can count. And when I was doing well and feeling good, somehow she was able to make me feel even better about my accomplishments. She was always positive, and I always looked forward to that Mama Bear hug after each game. My sisters unfortunately had to deal with the worst of me growing up. They got the stubborn, lazy, messy sister. Thank goodness for their patience and unconditional love. My bond with my sisters cannot be matched, and I wouldn't trade them for anything in the world. I will forever be in debt to Monmouth College, and I'm not talking about student loans. Monmouth College was one of the best things that has ever happened to me. I had 4 wonderful years here, and I've made awesome friendships that I cherish so much. If I had to do it all over, I'd pick Monmouth time and time again. It's a great day to be a Scot. Thank you all so much.
Congratulations, Jen. And now here to introduce Melissa Bittner is the longtime coach here at the college and current athletic director, Coach Roger Haynes.
I saw him come in. I don't know where Bill Axline's sitting, but Bill, thanks for being here, certainly. John, thanks for all your hard work with the Hall of Fame committee. And one Monmouth College tradition was missed. Coach Glasgow's not here, but other than Coach Glasgow, Coach Sander can put a good sound system better than any guy. Coach Sander, good work again. But we're here to talk about Melissa Jones. She came to the Monmouth campus from United Township High School in the fall of 1999. She graduated from Monmouth in 2003. She was a 12-time academic all-conference student athlete in volleyball, basketball, indoor and outdoor track and field. You had to qualify as a sophomore, so that was max times. Number of times she could have been an academic all-conference performer. I considered not discussing the NCAA Woman of the Year nomination she received, but it needs to be recognized. She was a top 10 finalist nationwide. My summary of that is it took that long for the country to find out what all of us already knew about her, all the fine qualities she had. I'll give you some statistics because if anybody here can describe her on a personal level, I want you to work with me on that. Maybe your mom can, maybe your sister can, maybe your husband can, but she didn't pick any of them, so they might not be able to put their finger on it either. So we'll give you some statistics before I talk about that. In volleyball, she was 5th all-time in school history in kills with 1,325. She's 3rd all-time career in blocks with 427. She was a 3-time all-conference middle in volleyball, which is a hard position to find. I know she was 2nd team player as a sophomore and junior, and she was the 1st team all-conference middle as a senior in 2002. In basketball, perhaps she accumulated her greatest statistics. She was 1st all-time in single game scoring with 37 points against Rockford College in December of 2002. Dan Nolan could go on for a day and a half about that game because she played against her sister. 3rd all-time in career scoring with 1,318 points. She's made a mistake there because the style of play she chooses to play now, we fire up shots about every 12 seconds, so there are going to be a lot of girls passing and scoring that probably are better players. Sorry, girls, it's true. She had 70 double-figure games in her career in scoring. She was 3rd all-time in career scoring average with 15 a game. She's 1st all-time with 365 made free throws. Unfortunately, girls, she's not 1st in career free throw shooting percentage, so we got to be honest about that. Good and bad. Jasmine really liked that. She has 595 career rebounds and 8th all-time. She had 78 career blocks, 2nd all-time to Marla Willard. I thought Coach Bittner had really learned a lot, but I held the javelin record for a long time. You got to hold those talented athletes down. Marla and I had a discussion about the block shot record the other day. Jack like she didn't know anything about it with a huge smile on her face. She was a 4-time leading scorer for our team all 4 seasons. She was an all-conference performer. 1st team as a freshman and a senior. I don't know how that happens, but I can tell you I said in the AD meetings a few years ago when we had Tanisha Hughes, who was the leading scorer and leading rebounder in the Midwest Conference, yet didn't make 1st team all-conference based on the conference vote. So I guess that's how you make 1st team as a freshman and senior. She was second team all-conference as a sophomore and a junior. She's one of only 2 four-time All-Midwest Conference players. Hall of Famer Heather Robinson was the other one. She also had an outstanding track and field career that I was blessed to be a part of. She was a key part of 7 Midwest Conference championship teams, 3 indoor and 4 outdoor. She was singular in that she's an 8-time Midwest Conference champion in the high jump. So she came off basketball season, got herself organized within a few days to get herself ready to compete at the conference indoor and eventually the conference indoor national meet. She's 3rd all-time on the track and field honor roll with an indoor best of 5'6" in the high jump, outdoors with a best of 5'6½". She was a 5-time NCAA qualifier in the high jump. She's a 4-time All-American, 2 times indoors and 2 times outdoors as a junior and senior. But as great as Melissa Jones's career was, I am pretty confident that Coach Bittner's career will undoubtedly be even better. Currently, she has the highest win percentage for women's basketball, 596. She's got 114 wins so far. Her teams have set a school record for 127 points in 1 game, and she learned her lessons well. That was against Knox College. Her team set a school record 13 3-pointers in 1 game versus Illinois College. The last 3 seasons consecutively, they won 16 games, and they were 20-5 last year in 2012-13. After all 3 of those seasons in 2011, 2012, and 2013, the women have represented Monmouth in the Midwest Conference tournament. They've reached a championship game each of those 3 seasons, so their overall Midwest Conference tournament record is 4-2. The women won the Midwest Conference tournament and the eventual automatic bid to the NCAA tournament in 2011-12, advancing to the first round of the NCAA tournament against number 1 ranked University of Chicago, who they played very well. Coach Bittner was a 2011-2012 Midwest Conference Coach of the Year in a poll by the league coaches. So what makes all these accomplishments possible? For any of the student athletes that are here, you know her in one way, and I know her in another, so you probably should take a minute to think about the things I'm going to talk about here for just a second. She had a great willingness to learn. She would listen to coaches and do what was best for the team. Usually that meant the ball needed to be in her hands, and volleyball and basketball, but she was always willing to do what the team needed. Intelligence, she had the ability to grasp coaching and apply it in a positive manner. I said she had the ability to accept coaching, and that's something that's fleeting these days, unfortunately. She had a great attitude. She had a high desire to succeed in anything she attempted, and she undoubtedly had great support from her family, and I know that was really important in her development as well. So while her undergraduate career was outstanding, I'm confident the best chapters of her story are just being written. I have little doubt her coaching career will be full of success. I tried to decide how to let Melissa know what I think about her, certainly. And the best point I can come up with is I would certainly trade my past successes for her future. She's a very driven person. My message to her today, I guess, is I hope that she'll slow down occasionally to realize that success comes in many different forms, and that not only wins are important. Intense focus on one type of goal can be a very limiting quality to one's skills and quality of life. I'm confident the effect she has on students as a professor and a major will continue to be significant, and I'm absolutely positive that the leadership and knowledge she can impart to the women in our basketball program will be valuable to thousands of current and future Fighting Scots. So with that, it's my pleasure to present for you, for induction into the Monmouth College Athletic Hall of Fame, Melissa Bittner.
a lot of people were so supportive and still are so supportive during my time here at Monmouth College. First, I'd like to thank my parents. I feel I've inherited so many great qualities from them. As an athlete, I wasn't necessarily the tallest, strongest, or certainly not the fastest player. But I think one thing that really set me apart is I have great work ethic. And without a doubt, this is a quality I inherited from my mom. Nobody works harder than my mother. Sorry. It's gonna be harder than I thought. I think that this really came to play, my work ethic in junior high. It was the first time I think I really saw this. In 7th grade, I played basketball, and that whole season in 7th grade, I scored 15 points the whole year. And at the end of the season, the leading scorer on our team and the best player announced that she wasn't going back out for basketball in 8th grade. And my best friend on the team, who was the second leading scorer, was like, "Cool, that means I'm gonna be the leading scorer next year." And I thought that was kind of presumptuous of her just to assume and think that she was going to be the leading scorer next year. I really devoted myself to the game that summer, and I shot a lot. We had a hoop in our backyard. I shot so much, I literally ripped the net off of our hoop in the backyard from shooting so much. So like I said, in 7th grade, I scored 15 points the entire season. In 8th grade, I averaged 15 points that season. So Mom, thank you very much for showing the importance of a good work ethic. To my father, I definitely received my passion for coaching. He's been to countless thousands of games. He goes on many recruiting trips with me as well to keep company. Not only to keep me company, he likes to analyze the players maybe worse than I do. He also takes a look at the stats after all the games. He even tries coaching up the ladies in the mezzanine after the games, regardless of how many times I've told him not to. But I know you'll always be our #1 fan. I mean, our #1 coach. Thanks, Dad, for giving me the passion for the game. Next, I want to thank my sister Paula for the countless hours we spent in the backyard playing sports together. Paula was also a 3-sport athlete. She went to Monmouth College, so I guess athletics were kind of in her blood. I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't tell the one time where we competed against each other in college. I was a senior, she was a freshman, and at Rockford, and we played each other in basketball. Her coach in their big pregame speech went on and on about, because I only needed 5 points to reach 1,000 for my career. He went on about how I was, they were going to hold me and not let me get those 5 points. Well, I scored those 5 plus 32 more. For a single season, for a single game, scoring record here at Monmouth, and I hit the game winner at the buzzer, so that was a pretty exciting game. However, the one thing that no one will ever let me live down about that game is we ended up getting switched around. I ended up guarding Paula, and she took a baseline, and she had me beat, and I had to foul her. It knocked her down to the ground so she wouldn't score on me. So whenever that comes up, that's the one thing that seems to come up more than often about that game. However, she likes to remind me that the score is now tied because a few years later, when she was a senior in college, and I was in my first year or two of coaching, we played each other again, and Rockford beat us in that game. However, I would like to remind her that she married a Monmouth College graduate, so therefore, Monmouth wins 2-1. Jokes aside, as much fun as it was playing against you, I think it's always been a lot more fun to be on your team. I'd also like to extend a huge thank you to my college coaches, Coach Shimon, Coach Haynes, Coach Mann. You guys really inspired me to pursue a career in college coaching. You each have many qualities that I try to emulate myself. Coach Shimon. Coach Shimon is a master at team building. She always has unique ideas, like the famous talent show than what we think we can if we don't let our own expectations hamper our ability to achieve. So Coach Haynes, thank you very much for always setting the bar very high. Next, I'd like to thank a really good friend of mine, someone who's been with me for 10 years, my assistant coach, Coach Martin. I've learned many valuable lessons from him, such as they don't give out trophies for halftime scores, and it only costs a little more to go first class. One of my favorite memories of Coach Martin was several years back. We're at Monmouth College, and I'm giving my pregame talk, and he's chewing on a blue, Coach Max, a blue Big Pen. And I talk, and usually, Coach Martin, Coach Max, got anything left to add? And I look at Coach Martin, and his lips are bright smart blue. And I am nervous. It's kind of a stroke. And then I realize he's chewing on a pen, and it exploded. And his lips are blue, his tongue is blue, and he's trying his best to get the blue out. So he was truthfully a blue boy that came out of Monmouth College. One day, Coach Martin asked longtime men's basketball coach Terry Glasgow, what were some of his worst losses? TG just shakes his head and he goes, there's been so many. I feel that way. I feel some days I understand that. And one of my stories, I guess, interesting stories, it's true that in basketball, sometimes the wins aren't as exciting, as meaningful as the losses are terrible and painful. One example of that is a couple years back when Coach Jones, who's my assistant now, is a junior, we went to St. Norbert's in December, and at halftime, we had more turnovers than points. There were like fireworks in that locker room, needless to say. Coach Martin always gets worried about me and thinks I'm going to Thelma and Louise myself off a cliff one day, and I definitely think if I was going to do it, it would have been that day. We didn't make things done in that particular second half. We ended up losing by 30-ish. It was bad. But the silver lining in that story was 2 months later, we go back up to St. Norbert, play the same team in the conference championship on their courts, play a fantastic game, and our ladies use it at the buzzer on a last-second shot. So it's true. Sometimes the losses stick with you a lot more than the wins. But Coach Martin, thank you for being a part of this wild, crazy ride that is each and every season. The next person there aren't enough thank yous to go out to this person. My husband Brian has helped me in countless ways. Everyone else kind of gets a story, pretty much how I goof something up, or but to Brian, the biggest. I wanted your acknowledgments to be a little different. To you, the only thing I can offer is the biggest heartfelt thank you that I can for, I guess, putting up with me. You know how much that you mean to me, and I can't thank you enough for all that you do. I don't have countless hours to give everyone the lengthy thank yous and stories they deserve. I work here, so it's already long, but just a little bit longer. But I would like to recognize as many people as I possibly can. Huge thank you, shout out to MC colleagues, Kathy Ass, Molly McNamara, Coach Sander, Dia Nolan, Haley Jones, President Ditzler, Coach Goddard, Steve Bloomer, Michael Blazing, amazing professors, Mike Connell, Lyle Welch, Steve Rubin, Bill Urban, Ken McMillan. You guys are truly the people that make Monmouth College such a special place. I'd also like to give a huge thanks to my college friends that are here in attendance. Jeremy, Casey, Katie, Mike, Toby, Troy, Lindsay. It's true what they say, that you meet some of your best friends in college, and I'm so glad you've been able to remain this close, even after 10 years. And let's go up in the Chicago Marathon tomorrow. Also, I'd like to thank my teammates who I played with. As I always tell begin my coaching career. I hope there are many more chapters left to be written. Thank you so much for this honor.
This is good. I'm gonna have to move the microphone up a little bit. Thank God for basketball players. And I will say one thing, Coach Sander takes a lot of heat around here, and he can take it. But Coach, you look pretty good in a suit, actually. Keep those pants handy. Our final presenter today, here to present his teammate, Chris Songarat, is Chris Farron. Chris.
Good morning. I don't know how you, as all the directors and the athletic directors, you got me to present for you, but I guess it was here for years. I want to start back. A few months ago, I was at an alumni function up in the Chicagoland area, and one of the alumni representatives was talking to me about one last time I did that in Monmouth, and when I plan on coming back again. I long joked with Chris that I would not be back to Monmouth College until he got inducted into the Hall of Fame. But, so needless to say, 3 months later, I get an excited call from Chris telling me, hey, I got inducted into the Hall of Fame, Coach Ames called me, and all I could think back was, you're welcome. Pulled some time, told no one to come back until they inducted you, and I'm here today, so I'm welcome about that. But when I look back at Chris's career, the only thing I can really think of is the 1996 season. Back then, Chris was a weight thrower, so he threw shot put, discus, and there was two styles that you could throw. One was a typical glide style, so it was a very simple one. People with, like myself, we had no athletic ability. You just slide back, throw a 16-pound shot, and it was over. Chris decided that he was going to take something on with help Coach Ames. Coach Kane decided to switch that up a little bit and do a more risky spin style. Chris had to make a decision that year. Was I going to glide, or was I going to stick with what I'm comfortable with? And in my opinion, no offense, he was above average shot player at that time. He was good, but he was no way to be making the Hall of Fame with that style. So he took the 1996 season, honed his style down, got the spin down, and over the next couple of years, he really flourished as a shot putter. Over the next 2.5 years, Chris became a 4-time shot put champion for conference, and although he did throw shot, he was also an accomplished discus thrower as well, and got a conference championship in that as well. In 1997, he was the most outstanding performance in a conference meet for the field events. And then following that, within those 2.5 years, he was a 3-time national qualifier in shot put and once in discus, and a 3-time All-American shot putter. He also qualified with as one of the top 3 throwers in the country on 2 different occasions. He also does not only hold many national accomplishments, but he also still holds 5 of the top 10 throws in Monmouth history for outdoor shot put, as well as holds the school record of 54 feet. 8.25 inches. And I apologize, I can't remember what your discus throw was that you 161 times. So I am not as long speaker as everybody else. I just want to go ahead and introduce my dear friend, Chris Songarat, and welcome to the, not welcome, because I'm not definitely in the Hall of Fame, but
Yesterday when I got to campus and I saw Chris, he asked me if 35 minutes was too much to talk beforehand, and I reminded him that my mom was going to be here so that he cut it down to what you all just saw. So, first of all, I'd like to just congratulate the members of the Young Club on getting inducted. It's an honor and very humbling to be inducted. You're all fabulous student athletes, and I respect everyone too. Over the summer, when Coach Ames called me about getting inducted, I kind of started thinking about just the path how I got here. Because actually, I didn't come to Monmouth to do track. It was the furthest thing from my mind. Actually, my high school track coach told me I wasn't good enough. So, but with the help of a high school teammate, we kind of made the introduction and went from there.
my path to this point has, been an interesting one. And there's a lot of people along the way that have kind of influenced that path. And much like everybody else, I kind of like to reflect upon some of those people today. So obviously I wouldn't be here if it weren't for my parents. Pete's our Rutherford County Sheriff. Let's be honest, following any event in the Midwest, especially track, and the way that the weather fluctuates day in and day out, is not fun. And especially when you're there watching the throwers. I mean, it is by far the least glamorous sport of track and field. But somehow it seems to always take as long as the entire meet. I've never quite understood that. I've never been done with it quicker. But regardless, there my parents were every meet, rain or shine, heat wave or cold snap, and that could all happen within an hour. Cheering me on and giving me encouragement. And even once I got to college and the meets became a little bit more spread out than they were in the Three Rivers Conference, they were still there sometimes giving up their entire weekend to cheer me on. Again, watching shot putters in college is not glamorous. I mean, it's just a bunch of big boys throwing stuff around and talking about how they're going to spend their meal money on the way home. I think that my first real exposure to track and field was due to my older sister. She did track, and she was actually a thrower in junior high and high school. And I think that really my first exposure was when she used to bring home shot put discuses and practice during the summer. I can always remember being out there and shagging them and rolling them back, and on occasion I get to throw it too. Not very often, but she did let me every once in a while. Sometimes I would sneak them out too when she wasn't home. But and even when I did throw it, then I always tried to throw further than her. And I think that kind of has developed a competitive nature to our relationship over the years. For some stupid reason, both her and I have taken up running over the last couple of years, and we've done a lot of different road races together, 5Ks and half marathons. And a couple weeks ago, she talked me into signing up for a 5K, and she's in the middle of training for her first marathon, which she'll be running next weekend. And so while she's in full swing of marathon training, my training was not in full swing. So I think that she figured that it was her perfect opportunity to finally beat me. So throughout the race, there was one point where she did actually catch up to me, but I kind of kicked it in gear and pulled ahead of her and beat her by a few seconds to kind of keep the streak running alive. However, after the race, she went to prompt care and was diagnosed with pneumonia. So in front of everybody, I will finally concede defeat and say that she beat me a race. Growing up as a kid, I had a really large extended family. Lots of cousins. I think there's 40 some odd first cousins. There was always one cousin that I always looked up to, and he was a Monmouth alum as well, as Byron sounds. As a kid, I always, I remember my first college experience was coming to watch him play football. From that moment on, I looked up to the guy, and I still do to this day. So it wasn't, my college choice was pretty easy to come here and follow his footsteps. And it's no wonder that over the years of supporting me and following me and what I was doing at Monmouth, that he's here today even though his niece is getting married in the second. It was actually his younger brother Brock, who said to me one day, "Hey, let's go to Monmouth and play football." So at the point, I was kind of excited to carry on the Songrath legacy in football here. Sad to say, though, that Brock and I failed miserably at that. Neither of us, I think, played more than 2 seasons. However, due to a friend of mine that came here from Erie, he made an introduction to Coach Haynes and I, and started talking to Coach about what I'd done in high school. It's like, "Well, you're going to go off for football, you're going to go off for track." And sure, why not? Sounded like fun. With anything that you do, you get out what you put into it. And along the way, I had a lot of great coaches and great teammates that helped me put a lot into track. And probably the greatest team I've ever had in any sport, he didn't even do the same events as me, was Brian Wood. Brian, day in and day out, gave 110% in practice. And if he didn't give 110%, it's because he was giving 120. Just the way he pushed everybody, he left it out there every day. And he probably realize it, but everybody saw it. If you were a jumper, if you were a thrower, you saw him just out there laying it on the line every day, and it made you want to work harder too. And it's no surprise that he's taken that same drive and become one of the best throws coaches in the Midwest. With track season being really long in college, I mean, it spans the entire semester. Once you kind of get in the middle, when you're kind of in the days where one day is really nice and the next day is really cold, practices kind of become a grind. And so luckily I had a lot of teammates out there that kind of helped. We helped each other get through it. Teammates like Bob Lindstrom, who when I decided I wanted to do the spin technique, Bob stayed after practice to work with me. And as I grew and had success, Bob was able to keep coaching me and keep giving me encouragement. Teammates like Jim Hartstein and Eric Holmes, who made every practice like a track meet. And sometimes that's when you didn't want to be there and walk out there and they're just, they're throwing really well. It's time to step it up a little bit and get to work. Others like my presenter, Chris Farron, who would always push me in conditioning, actually would always really kick my butt in conditioning and laugh at me. And then, would do things like endure a semester of waking up at 6 a.m. to go lift with a complete maniac of a workout partner that we subjected ourselves to at 6 a.m. in the morning. Those are the types of teammates that you'd have. Josh Gim, Josh was kind of like comedy relief a lot of times. His biggest comedy relief was if he felt like my ego was getting a little too big, he would take me over to javelin and again proceed to teach me a little bit of a lesson. Javelin was one thing I could never get down. I was absolutely horrible at it. And Josh always seemed to throw about 5 foot far away. One of the things, and two other guys, Toby Valls and Dennis Stacks, again, great teammates. Numerous meets where if they could somehow realize that my head wasn't in it, or if I needed to loosen up a little bit, they knew the exact same thing to say to kind of keep me in focus or loosen me up a little bit. One of the things I really liked about Monmouth was the involvement of the alumni in the track program. They were always there at meets, and they were always willing to talk to you, share stories, give encouragement, give advice, whatever. And for me, there was 2 alumni, Ross Richardson and Ann Cedric, who were very supportive of me as we were in Monmouth. And actually, they were both the record holders when I came to school here. And they were very outspoken in the fact that they wanted their records broken. They didn't want them to stay. They always felt like the best way to motivate the people behind you was to set the bar higher. And so even once I broke their records, they continued to encourage me and push me to set that bar higher for those people behind me. One thing I always tell people is what I learned in track prepared me for life after college more than what I learned in my classroom. It was always expected for us to show up, put in the time, do the work, give 110%, and compare ourselves like a champion. And we did those things, and we fall into place. And no one exemplified those traits more than the coaching staff. I was really privileged to have some of the most dedicated and talented coaches during my tenure here at Monmouth. Coach Kelly Kane, pushed us every day to be bigger, faster, and stronger, and would sometimes teach us to help us work on our agility by playing him racquetball. Except sometimes when you got the racquetball in the back, you knew it was Coach Kane's way of telling you to move your feet. One thing that a lot of people don't know about my track career is it kind of almost ended before it started. And I don't feel so bad saying this now. I've heard Fred Wack really say this at the President's Gala last night, that he also got asked to leave college at one point. So yes, at one point the fine people here at Monmouth decided that I wasn't taking my studies seriously, and so they suggested I take a break for a while. So after some conversations and a nicely written letter, they gave me another chance. And when I got back to college, actually, Coach Kane served a more important role to me than one as a coach. He became my academic advisor and helped me kind of get through the last couple years of college. until I graduated. I still can remember the first day back on campus when I got allowed to come back. I walked into my room and I had one voice message. It was from Coach Haynes. And it just said, "Christopher, come to my office as soon as you step foot on campus." So, with most times, anytime anybody calls me Christopher, it's not usually because they're happy with me. So I still remember the walk across campus. It was extremely long, and even though it really wasn't, and the knot in my stomach grew the entire time I was walking across, and it was tremendous, ginormous by the time I sat down in Coach's office. But the conversation that ensued was one that I'll never forget. There's one thing that Coach Haynes said to me that I'll never forget, and it still sticks with me to this day. Is he said, "You may never throw for us again, but you will graduate from this college." And that's what you got when you came to Monmouth. You didn't get, a lot of people talk about coaches and how they, they only care about their athletes. But that's not what you get here. You get a bunch of people that want the best for you, and the best for you is just that diploma on your wall. So the rest I say is history. My accomplishments are documented on my plaque and in record books, but none of them would have been possible without all those people along the way. So thank you.
So we again want to congratulate Casey, Jen, Melissa, and Chris. Your induction in the Input Hall of Fame is permanent, as is your legacy here at Monmouth College. I also want to recognize the Hall of Fame committee. I've been doing this now for quite a few years, and I don't know how it's possible, but it seems like every year we continue to get the best of the best. And I hope that that wave never comes to shore. So for those of you in the back, stay dedicated, work hard, and who knows, you might find yourself on this side of the ceremony. We hope you do. Couple announcements. We hope that the rain holds off, and we hope that you enjoy as many activities on campus this weekend as possible. There is an alumni meet and greet at the admission building over here prior to the parade. The parade starts at 11. The inductees need to be down here at this end of the building around 10:30. There is lunch at the field house at 11:30, and we're also having an alumni volleyball game at 11:30 as well. And then, of course, Jen, we're going to get a little revenge on Grinnell at 1 o'clock because your home run didn't count. And so the football game starts at 1. Again, we thank you all for coming. We hope you come back every year. Thank you.